Oh, this is a fun one. I always like doing this one. And you tell me when you're ready. You're going to like it. Well, we're about 2 months away right now from the Memorial Park concert and the fireworks show, which is one of Omaha's favorite and free summer traditions. This year, the date is Friday, June 27th to kick off the 4th of July holiday weekend. And we are so grateful for the private funders that make this night possible. The show will start again with video performances by local bands. This is the 5th year for this popular event. We will work with KPAO Community Television to produce these videos for the big screen to be playing at the park. The on-stage opening act is Mike Campbell and the Dirty Knobs. Mike Campbell is a member of the Heartbreakers, the band that he co-founded with Tom Petty. As lead guitarist, Campbell wrote many of the group's hits and co-produced many of their albums. He also wrote songs for Don Henley, Bob Dylan, and also for Stevie Nicks. In 2020, Campbell and the Dirty Knobs released their first album called Reckless Abandon. Their most recent album was released just last year. Campbell recently released his critically acclaimed memoir, Heartbreaker, which debuted on the New York Times bestseller list. And now, a performer who really needs no introduction. Are you ready for this? I first saw him, I remember seeing him, in 1964 on the Ed Sullivan Show, and that show was a lot of times has been called the night that changed music forever. And the rest is rock and roll history. Any guesses? Ringo Starr will be our guest this year in his all-star band. He will headline a Memorial Park concert. Ringo is a 9-time Grammy Award winner and has been introduced into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame twice. First as a Beatle and then as a solo artist. Between 1970 and 2025, boy, that's 55 years. In 55 years, he has released 21 solo records, including Look Up, released early this year. He also is an actor and he's an author with more than 15 films and 8 books to his credit. Ringo's all-star band is a group of well-known musicians, and they're all listed in your news release that you received today. It's going to be a really great concert, hopefully with good weather. It'll be a really great concert, followed by, of course, a great fireworks show, which is one of the best in the Midwest. Now I'd like to introduce our Parks Director, Matt Kalcevich. Thanks, many thanks to Matt and his team. Memorial Park is always the perfect venue for this park. And Matt, I'm going to bring you up right now.
Thank you, Mayor. And congratulations to everybody who was part of putting together this lineup. This is going to be a fantastic show. I've had the privilege of being part of this event for several years now, and it is just one of the highlights of our summer. I do want to say again, we were able to land this date or align our talent with this date. Traditional time when we've had this show, the Friday before the 4th of July. We've had this on some different dates over the years to work with the talent, but it was wonderful that we were able to align with this traditional time. I do want to say a special thanks and expand on what the mayor said to our parks team. They put a lot of effort into this show every year, and it's one of the highlights of our summer, and they are passionate about making sure this is one of the best experiences for residents of Omaha. And it draws people from all around, that's for sure. But it takes a team effort. There's contributors from across the city, members of the mayor's office, our public works team, planning department, so many who are part of just bringing this whole vision together, and we are incredibly grateful for that. I also want to thank our partner with the Omaha Parks Foundation. They've come alongside for the last several years and are once again assisting with the execution of the entire event. So thank you so much to Tiffany Regan, their executive director, and the whole team there at the Parks Foundation for their contributions. I want to make sure people know event details and more info will be available at memorialparkconcert.com. And you can find the event page by searching Memorial Park Concert on Facebook. That will have information about parking, street closures, park rules, and other details as we get closer to the event. Again, we look forward to the concert and hope everybody can come out and join us. Thank you.
Thank you, Matt. There are so many city departments that are involved in planning this great community event, and I want to take time to thank them, the Omaha Police and Fire Department, Park Omaha, Public Works, KPAO Television, Parks. Everyone has a really important role, so thank you all. And a special thanks to our exclusive radio partner, News Radio 1110 KFAB. So thank you all for that. Now, we are ready for your questions, but we are really, really excited about who the talent is this year, and I think it's going to be a really, really great concert. Questions? Oh, come on.
How big is it just to bring one of the members to Omaha?
I think it's really big. You know, we've had some great talent that we've had at these concerts, but when you bring somebody in that was a former Beatle, I think it's really, really great. Plus, he's had such a long career, too. Like I said, the way I figured it out, if my math is right, he's been releasing albums and records for about 55 years now. But he's very well known, obviously, also an actor, still on tour, still doing events. I just think it's going to be great, and it's going to be appealing for most people because I think his music is pretty uplifting, and people will recognize some of the songs. So I'm really excited about it, aren't you, Matt?
It's an incredible show. When I was made aware, it just blew me away that this was what we were able to bring here, and I think people are just in for an incredible treat.
Mm-hmm. Any other questions? Like, what's your favorite Ringo Starr song?
So, since Ringo Starr is coming, going to be like a different type of security.
No, you know, we always make sure. I mean, we expect, Matt, how many people?
We've had upwards of, 40, 50,000 people, and in previous to COVID, 70,000 people at Memorial Park. So we've been prepared to accommodate that size of crowd for years, going back to almost the start of this event. So absolutely planning everything we have in anticipation of that many people again. So that preparation is something we know very well.
And we are always prepared with the Omaha Police, Fire Department, Public Works Department to prepare and handle big crowds. We do it during the College World Series. We did it when the College World Series and the USA Swim Trials happened at the same time. They are used to handling these big crowds. The talent may have their own security, extra security, they usually do. But as far as what the job of the city is to make sure everything runs smoothly, we're ready for it. And we have been for several years now. And it's amazing how many people come into the park and then leave without incident. So public safety is still our number one concern. And we learn things every year too. But we expect it'll be a very safe concert, and hopefully, like I said, knock on wood, weather permitting, it'll be something that people can enjoy. I know people will start putting their blankets out at 6 a.m.
They will.
When
Yeah.
the park's open at 6 a.m. and they'll start putting their blankets out, getting their spot then. So I'm looking forward to it, and it's usually quite warm out during this concert. Always is at the time of year, but it'll be fun, and I think everybody will enjoy it.
Have you been wanting to try to get Ringo here in for a while?
Well, it's not me that gets the talent, you know.
But have you been wanting to try to
Oh,
get?
sure, absolutely. I know. I've got a list of who I would like, and I always drop a hint to those that are the managers or the do the producing for the event of who I would like to see here. But of course, he's a big talent and really well known and recognized, and somebody they've been wanting to have here for years now.
For the people who do work in picking the talent, what's the process like to get somebody who's a headliner like Ringo Starr? Because I believe that's probably the biggest guest to come for
Right.
this concert.
Heidi Walsh, do you want to come up and say anything? You have to come up here. Hi, I would. Heidi is I'll call you the event manager or the producer. How about that? And she has more to do with securing the talent than I do. So maybe she can answer your questions.
So we do keep a rolling list. So it has some favorites that maybe somebody tips us off to,
Like
a handful
me.
of people. But it is something that we keep a rolling list. There are some big names. As my partner with the Parks Foundation just said, this is an icon. This is somebody who has been on the list, so definitely something we were looking at. But each year we look at that list that we've kept and see who's on tour, whose dates might match up, just see if it's their time.
Thank you.
Yep.
I'll just say the two I've been pushing have already been to Omaha now. Now I don't know if they will, because I always bring up Peter Frampton and I always bring up Steely Dan. And within the past year and a half, they've both been here. So I did get to see them, just not at the park. So now I'm happy. Other questions you have? Scott, do you have any?
What is your favorite Ringo Starr song?
How about The Story of My Life? And that's It Don't Come Easy. How about that one? It Don't Come Easy, and I also like, I don't think he did not write this, but I'll Get By With a Little Help from My Friends. That's one of my favorite ones, too. I don't think he wrote it, but he sang it. So that and It Don't Come Easy. Those are my favorites. Other questions? And that is the story of my life right now. So
Would you be able to answer something off topic?
no, when we get done with this.
Can you
Yeah.
sing any of those songs?
Oh, you don't want me singing any of those songs? Seriously. No, you don't. Not at all. Other questions? What, do you know any Ringo Starr songs?
Not really, not off the top of my head.
Okay. Yellow Submarine.
Classic.
A classic. Photograph would be another one. That one's one. But Yellow Submarine is one that I remember too. But I like the others I mentioned too. So it'll be fun. And I don't know if he'll have new songs because he did just come out with a new album, I believe.
It was a country album just earlier this year. So
A
he's fresh off of
country
his
album. Okay, so we might have some different kind of music too
And
this year.
then, so he's touring with the All-Star Band. The other members that are playing with the All-Star Band are listed in the press release that they've
Okay.
received because they all have hits also. And generally, when he's touring with All-Star Band, they will play their greatest hits also. So there's a really great songbook that goes with this tour.
Good deal. All right. It's exciting. It's going to be fun. Keep your fingers crossed and pray for good weather, and it'll be a great concert this year. All right? All right.
Okay, so I spoke to Danny Begley today, and so obviously there were problems at City View back in January with elevators not functioning. They passed a fire inspection. Well, now apparently the elevators aren't working again. Both elevators aren't working, and so Danny says that he contacted the fire department, I believe the police. He might have reached out to you, I'm not sure. What are the city's plans now that there's more problems at City View?
You know, just what we have done before. We have, I just found out about it yesterday. I do believe that that building could be in foreclosure? Receivership now. So that was new. That was something new too. But again, if if there's issues there and there are new issues there, then the fire department notified and would have to go in there and inspect, make sure that the elevators are working, the fire alarms are working, just what we've done before. You've got to remember that we are under a federal court order that we cannot go in there unless there is a complaint filed. They could call, they could do an email into the planning department, but there has to be a name and there has to be an address of the complainant, and then we could send our code inspectors in there. So just like we did when there were complaints before, we would do the same thing again. So that's what we are able to do according to law. And we can't just bust in there because it's private property. But if it is in receivership, then that's another issue. And that is something, since it is private property, that the city is not directly involved with at this time. Is there any other, I just found out about it yesterday evening, so.
And so if it is in receivership, for the people who are living there now, does the city assist in moving them somewhere else? Or are these people kind of just up in the air?
You know, there is no requirement, I would say, that the city is responsible for finding places to relocate these folks, but we would take part in that, and we would do what we can to make sure, whether it's temporary or whether we work with other agencies to make sure that we can find other facilities or other places for them to live, because we don't want to, last thing we want is to push anybody out with say an eviction and put them out on the street. So we will be very engaged with this process, the city will, just like Legacy, just like these other issues, but the fire department was already notified. You know, it didn't take one council member to notify fire. They were already aware. That's how we found out about it. And so the planning department was already aware. And so we will be working with them with that issue. But I just found out about it yesterday.
And I spoke with John Ewing, who said that he's criticized how the city has handled this issue in the past, and said that he would work with council members to change city ordinances, and also try and give more resources to city inspectors. What's your response to that?
Of course he did. You know, John Ewing has a lot of things he says and no plans on how to do it. John Ewing also said he would go to court and try to change a federal court order. And that is probably not ever going to happen. We've been back to court before with that federal ruling. And so, you know, he says a lot of things, but he does not know what the city has done in the past. With these issues, like with Legacy or with City View, it's not a matter of the mayor working with the city council. It's a matter of working with the property owner, with the property manager, with the police department, with the fire department. It's not a matter of the mayor working with a council member that's going to suddenly solve all these issues. So there, you know, one thing that we didn't want are bad landlords. You know, we have that landlord registration that was passed years ago, and that is a city ordinance already, that properties have to be inspected if they were bad players when it was passed. Any property that had violation in the previous 3 years had to be inspected. Now all properties, rental properties, have to be registered, and there's a certain percent. I believe it's, don't quote me on this, I believe it's 10 or 15% of the properties, if it's multifamily, have to be inspected. And then if a certain percent of that percent is in violation, then the whole property has to be inspected. So John Ewing needs to make himself familiar with the ordinances we already have on the books too, and that would help.
I'm sorry for firing questions. This will be my last one. But as someone who's new to Omaha, have you ever been in this situation before where there's a building that is at a point where it's receivership? Is that the word that?
Yeah,
have
I mean,
you been in this situation before? Is there a similar situation to what City
I would
is
say,
right now?
I mean, I really don't know. I mean, that there's Legacy Crossing was one. No, I don't think so with that one. Yeah,
So
but
this
I
is
mean,
a new situation?
there's multiple issues that happen with some of these multifamily units. But you know, you got to think too that the tenant has to have some responsibility too at taking care of their units. And so this is not just an issue of a mayor not working with the city council at all. It is that we are restricted at what we can do. We already have ordinances. We already have ordinances that address rental units and landlords. We already have, like I said, a federal court order that restricts what we can do. So it's a complicated issue, but the last thing we want are bad landlords, and the last thing we want are unfit living conditions. You know, we work with Omaha Housing Authority. That's not under my authority or the mayor's authority, but we work with them. At City View, there were, I don't know, maybe 30 units that were Omaha Housing Authority units, and they have moved those tenants out of there already and taken care of that. So it's a complicated issue. And again, it's not just one thing that somebody could say, well, I'll work with the city council and solve all those problems. That's not going to happen.
I know you were just briefed on that yesterday, but do you know when that receivership process began?
I really don't, not now. Again, it's private ownership. The owner lives in Florida. There is a property manager here in Omaha that we deal with, and we also deal with their attorney who is here in Omaha. The attorney has been very responsible and has answered our attorney's questions about it. And so, you know, it's kind of an ongoing process, but it is private property. And you can't just barge in private property and say, we're going to take care of all of this right now. You have to have, by court order, you have to have a complaint. And then you could go in that unit, not every unit in the building. You could go in that unit. And then we still have some ongoing complaints with City View that our code inspectors are inspecting. And so, you know, we want to make sure that we do everything we are allowed to do by law. Any other? I'm open. Anything.
Nobody else has anything else.
Here we go.
Sorry. Would you ever consider not reviewing the ordinances, but making changes to ordinances that are already in place?
We always do that. I mean, we always look at ordinances and make sure they are still fitting for, you know, what is going on today. There are new ordinances on the city council agenda all the time. I just submitted one, had the law department write one on street racing, because that has become a new problem here in Omaha. I think in the testimony yesterday, somebody said, well, we already have laws in the book about speeding. This isn't about speeding. Yes, we have laws on the book about speeding. This is about street racing that not only makes it an offense for the street racer, but also those that are watching it, those that are spectators. Spectators are killed in some street racing incidences that happened in Lincoln a year or so ago, that a car went off the road. If you remember several months ago, there was a Jeep that was street racing, and the trend is what they do is they GoPro themselves while they're doing this, and the Jeep ran into a utility pole going over 170 miles an hour. This is what I'm trying to address. It's not the speeding rules we already have on our books. So we always look at ordinances if we need to change or amend them. Always. That's done routinely. So that's nothing that the city is not saying that they're going to do. Whoever said that, they need to familiarize themselves with what goes on in a city council meeting every week, because things like that are always addressed.
Thank you.
Calling once, calling twice. Okay, thank you all for coming. Go out there and play your Ringo Starr records tonight. No, I remember the Ed Sullivan Show, though. I remember where I was. I remember I was at my aunt's house. And my cousins were older than me, and they had those old tape recorders that literally, this shows you how old I am, the reel-to-reel. And we put the microphone next to the TV and recorded the Beatles. It was so much fun. And it was, oh my God, that was my cousin that did it. And I probably wouldn't have anything at all to play it on anymore either. But definitely they called that Ed Sullivan Show in 1964. They called it the night that changed music forever. And that's when the Beatles were on TV. Isn't that great?
When the Beatles landed.